Guys, remember last week when Trump supporters rioted on the day of Joe Biden's inauguration? They fought cops, burned down a DNC headquarters in Portland. Wow, what savages. Remember this summer when roving mobs of Trump supporters burned America to the ground? They looted our stores and destroyed small businesses and lit historic churches on fire. MAGA mobs, we called them. They attacked the White House and injured hundreds of Secret Service members. Remember when Trump supporters hunted down a Joe Biden supporter in the street and killed them in cold blood? This was in Portland. Or when mobs of conservatives murdered cops and women, including these members of the black community. Remember when roving mobs of conservatives viciously attacked Democrats leaving Joe Biden's DNC acceptance speech, including a prominent senator and his wife? Oh, and who could forget when a crazed Trump supporter opened fire on congressional Democrats playing baseball, critically wounding half a dozen of them? Oh, you don't actually remember any of that and so much more? Oh, if you're a conservative, your stomach probably turned listening to that open, "We can't blame you. We would never tolerate such behavior in our movement." Conservatives are decent, generous, God-fearing people. That makes us good people. It cannot be stated enough. Every instance of violence and carnage and evil I just described to you, it did happen in real life in America. It was just the opposite of what I told you, the left attacking the right, viciously. Democrat leaders inciting violence for years, actually, and the media covering for them. However, if you were to turn on any of our competing cable news channels tonight, you would think it was Trump supporters who are members of ISIS. And they're being treated like that by the incoming administration. Listen to Monica Lewinsky's former boyfriend at CNN coin the term MAGA terrorists.
So how did these domestic terrorists storm the nation's capital? The Capitol ransacked by MAGA terrorists. The assault perpetrated by the MAGA terrorists. The terrorists, the MAGA terrorists. MAGA terrorists. Deadly attack by MAGA terrorists. The MAGA terrorist mob. A terrorist attack on the U.S. Capitol. Far-right domestic terrorism, a huge problem in this country. Nobody supports terrorists.
We searched for the term BLM terrorist and Antifa terrorist on CNN. You'd be surprised that we just couldn't find any segments on those topics. Very strange. Antifa lit fires, beat cops, and burned down a DNC headquarters in Portland on the day of Joe Biden's inauguration. We asked the new White House press secretary time and time again to denounce the violent terrorist organization Antifa. You know what she said?
I'll circle back if there's more I can share with you. I'll circle back with you if there's more to convey. I'll have to just circle back with you. We can circle back with you. I'm happy to circle back with you.
So many circles, so far back. So many circles going back. There are many, many more instances of left-wing domestic terrorism. We don't even have time to cover them on this show. It'd take us all night and into next week. The short story is this: Democrats are empirically the party of violence. Democrats should hang their heads in a bag on this topic, but they don't. Instead, they call you a terrorist and threaten your civil liberties, like you were a 9/11 hijacker. There are many reasons to be angry about this, but on this show, we want to cover the big one, which is how do they get away with it? These people are liars, and they're able to manipulate the public so easily and get their way. How do we stop this? That's the big question, and the answer is quite simple. They have no shame. Our establishment political class lost the ability to feel shame long ago. It's why Nancy Pelosi eats $13 ice cream and gets her hair done maskless while destroying the American economy and all the businesses in her district. It's why Hillary Clinton says, "Believe all women." Laughable. It's why Eric Swalwell can have an affair with a Chinese spy and still sit on the Intelligence Committee, still sit on Trump's impeachment committee. Just a note, be careful if you are sitting where Eric Swalwell just sat.
Taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help them cheat an election. And the complaint that I've heard from Republicans all last week was that...
Must have been one of those brand new Chinese coronavirus anal swabs. Poor Eric. So how do you hold people accountable who have no shame, no morals? These empty people only feel shame when the mechanisms of culture are turned against them, when the despicable things that they have done are condemned by cultural institutions. Harvey Weinstein, Matt Lauer, Anthony Weiner, Jeffrey Epstein, all men of the left, self-described feminists, by the way, laughable. These scumbags got canceled, rightfully so. It can happen, but only when cultural pressure is applied. For the past 4 years, we had a president who was fighting the culture war. Trump was a cultural icon. He was the indisputed most powerful and famous person in the world. He controlled a piece of the culture war. The press talked about what he wanted them to talk about. And often Trump won cultural battles based on outmaneuvering and outmessaging. A great example of this? Lawnmower Boy. One of my favorite stories of the Trump era, Lawnmower Boy. To create a dichotomy between the cold, impersonal Obama era, Trump opened up a contest for regular Americans to write the White House with a request. Frank Giacchio, probably not saying that right, but I'm trying, Giacchio, from Falls Church, Virginia, wrote the White House asking for the honor to mow the lawn and show the nation, this is an exact quote, show the nation what young people like me are ready for. Frank charged his regular price of $8 to do this. It makes you happy. It warms your heart. This is what wins the culture war. To apply cultural pressure, you have to control some institution of culture. You don't have to be president to change culture, by the way. Mark Robinson in Greensboro, North Carolina, was sick of his city council trying to limit his Second Amendment rights. So he went and gave a speech.
These minorities and that minority, what I want to know is, when are you all going to start standing up for the majority? And here's who the majority is. I'm the majority. I'm a law-abiding citizen who's never shot anybody, never committed a serious crime, never committed a felony. I've never done anything like that. But it seems like every time we have one of these shootings, nobody wants to put the blame where it goes, which is at the shooter's feet. You want to put it at my feet.
As of today, this is no longer Mark Robinson. You have to call him by his official title, Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, Mark Robinson, to you. Robinson, who had never held elected office, ran after that video went viral, and he beat his Democrat opponent by 150,000 votes. Good for him. We applaud him. This week, a Virginia father boiled over at a Democrat school board that continued to keep schools closed, keep his children locked in their house, in spite of CDC guidelines calling for openings. Listen to this.
You're a bunch of cowards hiding behind our children as an excuse for keeping schools closed. You think you're some sort of martyrs because of the decisions you're making when the statistics do not lie that the vast majority of the population is not at risk from this virus. The garbage workers who pick up my freaking trash risk their lives every day more than anyone in this school system. Figure it out or get off the podium, because you know what? There are people like me and a line of other people out there who will gladly take your seat and figure it out.
This man reflects the mood of the entire country. Good for him. You want to know where regular Americans are? That's where they are. The school board is now reconsidering their decision to lock down schools indefinitely, an evil decision. And this is what fighting the culture looks like. This is what winning looks like. The question is, can you really think of any cultural institutions that conservatives control? That's a question we have to ask ourselves as a party. We cannot return to the days of feeble GOP establishment, complicit in controlled cultural decline. That's exactly what happened for the first part of the 2020s. Our movement won't survive. We must win the culture war. And to do that, you must fight the culture war. This show is devoted to the conservatives who are breaking into the culture outside of politics. In the recording industry, in Hollywood, free thinkers are defiantly facing down the mob and making a dent in culture along the way. They are winning. It's our honor to highlight their stories on this show. So be inspired. This is how we win. So, coming up, Big Tech tried to take down 2 conservative rap artists, and boy, did that backfire. More on that when we come back. Don't go away.